My name is Ashley Riddle. I am an alcoholic, and glad to be here. Thank y'all for having me here tonight. I didn't wise up none after that first week. I've been working in hay ever since, and sometimes I hate it and sometimes I love it, but most of the time I love it. So I do have a home group. It is the Keeping It Sober group down in Aberdeen. We meet on Tuesday night at 8 for open discussion meeting. We meet on Saturday night at 8 for open speaker meeting. So if y'all are ever not busy those nights, come on down and see us. I've got a sobriety date. It's March the 15th, 2016. And by God's grace, I've not had a drink or anything else to alter my state of being since that day. I've got, so I don't come here much on Thursdays anymore. I've got kind of like a second home group, I guess you could say. I've been blessed with the opportunity to be the outside sponsor at Southern Correctional in Troy. And that's where I've been every Thursday for about the last, I don't know, probably six or 7 months. It feels like just yesterday I started going in there, but it's probably been 6 or 7 months, I suppose. So very blessed to be able to do that work, get a lot out of it. Very grateful to the guys here that taught me how to do prison work, Daniel and Wallace. They let me tag along with them down at Morrison for a while, kind of get my feet under me. And grateful to Kevin. He did meet me. I think he beat me there to Bethesda that day. And I walked in and the little lady secretary said, "You got somebody waiting on you?" I thought, my God, I ain't even from around here. Who's waiting on me? And it was Kevin. He had gotten heads up that I was coming down, and he didn't. I don't think he was ready for what he got, but we've been friends ever since. Thank you, Kevin. And so my job here tonight is to tell you guys what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like today. It won't good before I come in here, I'll tell you that. And it won't good for a long time before I come in here. But thank God I made it here. I made it back here. I grew up, I went to several AA meetings as a young fella. I had a family member in the program, still is. He's sitting over here directly to my right and y'all's left. So if you got any concerns with what I say tonight, feel free to go to him and let him know that he didn't do too good of a job. So I don't know. I thought AA was for some weird folks. I would go in, I'd sit down with Wallace and my grandma, and they was thick clouds of smoke up, and people would get up there and they'd talk. And I didn't really have a clue as to what they were talking about, but really didn't care, to be honest with you. I didn't like it. I didn't like it not one bit from the get-go. And I thought to myself, I remember thinking, my God, I hope I ain't never like these people. I don't ever need this place. But thank God y'all are here, and y'all were here when I got here. I certainly needed it. I certainly didn't have a terrible childhood growing up, but I certainly didn't feel normal either. I did not feel on the inside what I projected other people to look like on the outside. And it won't because of my environment, my circumstances, nothing like that. I was well taken care of. My parents split up from an early age, but did that affect me? I don't know. I'm sure it probably did some, hearing all the fussing and arguing and stuff. I remember the first time that I really tried to get away. I think I was about 5, and they were fussing and arguing, and I was standing there in the living room listening to it, and I made up my mind I had enough of it. So I took off out the door, and I don't know where I was going, but I was running, and it didn't take my daddy long to catch up with me. I wasn't fast then, I ain't very fast now. But he caught me, he scooped me up, brought me back in. He said, "Boy, what in the hell are you doing?" I said, "I just wanted to get away from here." And I didn't make it far. But I've been running all my life from circumstances, from stuff, I guess you could say. I grew up in church, had a had a good foundation growing up in church. I was there. If the doors was open, I was there, and got a lot of knowledge. I had a lot of knowledge about the God that I was preached to, and knew a lot about the Bible and other stuff. But what I know today is I never had a relationship with God like I do today. Just knowledge, that was all I had. Book knowledge. There was no connection there. If there ever was a connection, I'd be like the guy from Old Brother, Where Art Thou? I'd come up out of the water. I've done that a couple of times, thinking that was going to solve my problems, and I'd say, "Oh, buddy, here we go. Like it's on now. I'm washed by the blood of Jesus, and I'm going to just walk on water throughout my days." And I didn't. I sunk more than I walked on water. I'll tell you that. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to follow up that feeling, that good feeling that I got many times throughout my life. I'd get it and I'd sit on it. I wouldn't know what to do with it. What I've been taught in here is that that feeling's great and all. If I don't put some action behind it, it's going to go away. And that's what it has done every time if I don't put some action behind it. Ironically enough, I guess, my first drink was taken at church. It was at like a lock-in type thing on a Friday night. We were playing basketball, me and some of the younger kids, and the older kids, I'll never forget it. It was an old orange Toyota pickup sitting off over here to the side. We got through playing, and that's where the older kids were hanging out at. Walked over there, and I was handed a cup about like these here that's on the table tonight, little white Solo cups, and I got it, and I looked down, and it was clear, and I thought, oh, they got me a glass of water, and so I need that. I'm thirsty, and it won't water. I remember I smelled it, and it had this terrible smell to it, and I thought, God almighty. And I remembered, what they had been preaching about in that same church, to not don't do bad stuff like that. But I don't know. I've just always been drawn to the bad stuff, I guess you could say. And I drunk it, and I tell you what, it tasted worse than it smelled. And it burned going down, man. It was hot going down through there, and I thought, my God. And they said, just drink it, man. If you just drink all of it, and it won't burn as bad. Well, they lied. It burnt just as bad. The last drop burnt just as bad as the first drop did. And I thought, my God, how can one enjoy that? But I realized real soon, like, I wouldn't venture to say that it took no more than about 2 or 3 minutes for that stuff to start working on me. And I feel like I got a smile on my face, like this permanent smile, where I was just cheesing, and I felt good. And man, I had a good time that night. And for the first time in my life, like something worked on me to where I didn't feel quite as awkward. I didn't feel quite as tied up in a little knot. Like I stayed tied up in a knot. My inside did. Felt like about the first 13 years of my life. But that drink that night took care of all that. And I remember that night just like it was yesterday. And I just had a good time. Like I felt good, and I had a good time. I made a fool of myself, but I remember everybody laughing and cutting up, and I went to sleep that night. I didn't throw up all over myself like I would come to do later on. It was a good night. I woke up and didn't have no hangover, and I said, man, I don't know how hard it's going to be to get a hold of that from here going forward, but I'm going to try to do that just as much as I can. And that's what I done for the next, I don't know, I'd say 2 or 3 years, getting it here or there, looking forward to the weekends when I go hang out with my buddies and ride four-wheelers and just hang out in the woods and just cut up and act a fool. But we weren't hurting nobody. We was out in the woods, you know what I mean? I grew up in Sanford, and actually that's still where I'm at today. So I think Kevin said that y'all had a local speaker. That's not the case, unless 45 minutes is local, I guess. But but my home group is Aberdeen, so maybe that's why I qualify. I don't know. But anyhow, I don't know. I'd say probably around 16, I got my driver's license. That's when I got my freedom, And growing up in this little small country town called Deep River, which is right outside of Sanford, as I did, I was kind of sheltered. I didn't really get out a whole lot. There's no caution lights in Deep River. There's some stop signs, and we got a fire department, and we got a mini mart, and that's about all. Rest of it's woods and just good old folks. And so once I was able to kind of get out from that and get my driver's license, and get out and explore and venture a little bit, I found the people that I had been searching for my whole life, and they probably weren't the people that my mom and daddy would have liked for me to have been associated with. But like I say, I always liked going for the trouble rather than maybe what I should have been going for. So I was drawn to that early on. And at about 16 or 17 is when my alcoholism really progressed into what it was. Not as severe as it was there at the end, but that's when it really started kicking into high gear every day. On the way to school, there was something there. I did a lot more than just drink alcohol, but I do respect Alcoholics Anonymous. It saved my life, and I ain't gonna get into a whole lot of the other stuff, but I'd be lying to y'all if I said that other substances didn't play a part in my life, because they certainly did. And kind of breezed through high school. Wasn't a whole lot of consequence or nothing. School just kind of came natural. It was fairly easy. I didn't really have any ambitions or dreams, like I did as a little boy. It was kind of starting to fade by this time already. However, I did end up in college. There was a college that accepted me, and so I packed my stuff up there at the end of my senior year, and I went to Greenville. And for a sheltered country boy from Deep River, Greenville, North Carolina is a dangerous place. It was for me. And I remember the first night I was there, I got hooked up with some buddies that lived in the same dorm as I did. And we shot right down the hill across town. Downtown was right there. I could look out my window and see it. And we shot down there, and we ended up at somebody's house. And I don't know who it was, or I lost track. About 12, 1 o'clock, I quit remembering, and all I do remember is the next morning, I guess you'd call it coming to. I was starting to kind of wake up, and there was an uncomfortable feeling that I felt, and I knew something wasn't right. I certainly did know that I was not in a bed, and it was kind of prickly feeling, and the sun was shining, so I knew I was outside. And I kind of looked around a little bit, and I'll be doggone, I was smack dab in the middle of a bush. Now I don't know if I fell out there. I don't know if I was knocked into the bush. I don't know how I ended up there, but that's where I was when I woke up that next morning. And I got up and kind of shook it off, and I just remember thinking, my God, that was awesome. Like I had a good time last night. Now, today, guys, I don't want to wake up in no bush. And if I do, that ain't cool. I have not had a good night. But at that time in my life, I thought that was a pretty good night. And that night right there, that first night that I was there, that kind of sums up how my college career went. I made it right at a year. I did end up... I got put on probation, so I was in the special classes and going through them, and I might go to class, I might not. It just depended on what I had waiting on me when I got up that next morning. If I had something to get me up and get me going, and I'd get on up and I'd get on going. If I didn't, I'd just lay there in that bed all day until I did muster up the strength and ability to get up and get something in me and go on with it. So I did end up, I had my first child at the end. No, well, I didn't have it at the end. That's why I came home. I had about 3 days left in the school year, and I found out I was having a baby. I said, all right, here we go. This is my call right here. Like, I'm going to straighten up, and I'm going to go on back to Sanford, and I'm going to get me a job, and this is going to be the turning point. Because I had been in some pretty bad situations and pretty scary situations down in Greenville, ones that I was not accustomed to getting into while in Sanford. And I really thought that I thought I was one of the unluckiest people in the world. I thought that I was very unfortunate. What I know today is when I drink alcohol and do other stuff, I don't make the best decisions. And I get myself in predicaments and situations that just isn't conducive to what society likes and what the law don't like and stuff like that. So, found out that the girl, and so here's like, let me just tell y'all how this happened. And I had dated a girl for about 2 weeks, and we broke up for about 2 weeks, and I got a call that she was pregnant. And I said, man, there ain't no way. I said, you need to go find somebody else for that, because it ain't me, buddy. And so we went through the proper protocol to find out. We didn't go on Maury or nothing like that, but we did. We went through the proper protocol, so I wanted to make sure it was mine, and it was. And there ain't no doubt about it today, because that little girl, God almighty, she acts just like me. She looks like me, but she acts like me, and I'm a little bit worried about that. Wallace is too. He knows what I'm talking about. But bless her heart, she is a good little girl, sweet as she can be. But I done the best I could. Me and her mama, we both did with where we were at the time, 19, 20 years old, with what we had. We were both full-blown alcoholics at this point, and she didn't slow down none, and I didn't either. And I was afraid if I said something to her about slowing down, she might ask me to slow down with her, and I wasn't ready for all that. And so we just kept going like we had been going. And so what happened out of that situation, we had this beautiful little baby born July 17th of 2007. And she came out, and I was in there, and I was peeking around there because I didn't really want to look, but I did want to look, but I didn't want to look. So I was just kind of peeking around, and when she came out, I thought, my God, is that what they all look like? But she wasn't right. Like, she was red, and she was shaking, and she was screaming, and I thought, man, what the hell's wrong with this baby? And like, come to find out, all that stuff that me and her mama was doing, it carried over to her, and she was really in bad shape, and like in such bad shape that they put her on the ambulance, brought her up here to Moore Regional because they didn't know what to do with her at Sanford, at Central Carolina. And I just remember, I remember how bad I felt. Like, man, I had a part to play in all this, you know. And but they brought her up here, and she stayed in the NICU for a while, you know, coming off of alcohol. She was born. She was born. I don't know, alcoholic, I guess. It was running through her blood, and I remember making a good vow that first night I spent up there when I saw all the stuff they had hooked up to her. You know, seeing like what this thing can really do to you in the rawest sense of the form. This little baby laying there and can't eat, got all this stuff hooked up to her and feeding tubes, and I thought, man, this is really no joke here, and I'm gonna straighten up. I'm gonna do things the right way, and meant it. I meant it just as much that day as I mean it today, as I meant it March 15th, 2016. But there was I put no action behind that. It was just words, same words that would come out many more times to follow after that. And you know, just to make a long story short, because I don't want to stay drunk the whole time. I want to get into sobriety some here. Another kid born same way. That solemn oath I made, it didn't work, you know. And just not being, certainly not being the father that I wanted to be, because I told you that my dad, left at a pretty early age, and I told myself, I said, I'm gonna be better than him. I'm gonna do right by my kids. I'm gonna be there for them, and I'm gonna be the best daddy I can be. And I tried. I really did try, but I didn't have it in me. The disease had me, alcoholism is a disease, and I lived with that for a long time, untreated, and I was a mess, and really I thought many times that tomorrow's going to be different. Like I'd go to bed at night, or maybe I wouldn't, maybe I'd just stay up all night, just in that dark place, thinking, it ain't gonna always be like this, Ashley. It won't always be like this. But I'll be doggone if the next night won't just like the night before that. Couldn't get out of it. Didn't know how to get out of it until a time came where I was like, well, you ain't getting out of it. This is just how it's gonna be the rest of your life. And that was a sad, dangerous position to be in. And so stuff came, stuff went, jobs. Houses, cars, all that stuff. I've had it all and I've lost it all. But what I lost more than anything was myself throughout all of it. Not being able to provide for my family, not being the daddy that I wanted to be, not being the one that I knew that I should have been. Alcoholism took all that away from me, and. So March the 18th of 2016, about a year before I got sober, I was in another bad spot. I was just, day by day, it was all I could do to make it from one day to the next. And this night in particular, I had been up drinking all day, night before. So let me just tell you guys what my day looked like. I'd get up, if I had something left over from the night before, I'd get up, and I'd get that in me. And that would get me dressed and get me to work, get the kids to school. Not that I was pleasant to be around. What my day looked like getting them ready for school was waking up late, hollering at them for being late. They can't help it. I'm the one that's late. It ain't a 7-year-old's responsibility to get up, but that's how I was, there toward the end. Hollering, just unpleasant for them. I didn't even like me. I know they didn't. And getting them out the door, get them to school, get to work, get my little stuff for today, get my little Ranger, and head down to Moncure because I couldn't go to Sanford because I had to get me something to drink that day. And so I'd go to this little store down there, and I had a shirt that said City of Sanford and Ashley. And so I couldn't go in there like that at 8:30 in the morning to buy beer. So I'd take that shirt off. I'd always have me a replacement shirt. I'd put that shirt on. I'd park way down there that way because my truck, it had a City of Sanford logo also. And so I couldn't let nobody see me. So I'd park way down there. I'd change. I'd run in there. I'd get what I need for today. And I'd run back out. And I'd get going. And I won't hide from nobody. I won't fooling nobody but me. I was the only one I was fooling. Everybody I went in that was in that store knew what I was doing. But I really thought I was slick. I really did. But I wasn't. And so that's what my days looked like. And this one day in particular, it had been just like that, drinking all day, while riding around. Trying to work. I was doing the best I could with what I had at the time, but they want a whole lot of work getting done. I was just zooming over Sanford. Go over here and take care of something, go over there and take care of something. Bam, bam, boom. All day, like a pinball in a pinball machine. There was no serenity, no peace, no nothing. And that night I ended up somewhere I shouldn't have been, driven by fear and pride and all the stuff, that I listed out in my 4th step. I had all that stuff built up, and I was going to go take it out on this person that night, and I was going to I was going to really let them know who Ashley Riddle was. And I ended up over there, and it didn't work out in my favor. I got stabbed that night, and I got stabbed a lot. He got me about 9 times altogether. And I didn't go over there with a knife. I didn't know it was going to be a knife fight, so I didn't take one with me, or I'd have been a little better prepared. But boy, he cut me up that night, and thank God my mom. So this is how big and bad I am. I went over there with my mama because I was going to show him, but. And he actually ended up coming at her, but I did keep him off of her. So I did something right that night. And but I got the brunt of it. And she got me to the hospital, and they put me on a helicopter. And I was kind of going in and out at this point, and I really don't remember. I remember spurts of it, and I remember my daddy came in there, and he was crying, and I ain't never seen my daddy cry. And I thought, man, what's he crying for? I did not realize the shape that I was in laying there on that hospital table. And my mama came in. She was crying. And I just thought, man, what is going on here? And then they brought my little girls in, and when they brought her in, I thought, my God, I'm dying. They're coming to say their goodbyes. And I started crying, and I cried. And I guess I must have went out of it, because I woke back up and I saw this guy leaning over me, and he had on this helmet with these goggles. And I thought, my God, what is this? And he said, I'm going to take care of you, buddy. It was the pilot, not the pilot, but the pilot's sidekick in the helicopter. That's why he had all that stuff on. It scared me. And he said, I said, please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. He said, I'm going to take care of you, buddy. And that was it. I don't remember the bride up there or nothing. But I woke up a couple days later, and I couldn't move. I was just like that. I woke up kind of like I did that morning that I woke up down in East Carolina when I didn't really know where I was. I just kind of woke up and looked side to side, and I thought, man, what's done happened now? But I couldn't move. I was in bad shape. And there wasn't nobody in there, and I reckon that they know that I come to because it wasn't long, and a doctor came in there. I don't know if some stuff started beeping or binging or whatever, but he came in there, and he sat down, and he talked to me, and he let me know a couple of things. He let me know how lucky I was to have made it. He said that I had not made it, but they were able to, in fact, bring me back. And he also let me know just how high my alcohol level still was at that time. And I thought that was kind of weird. What you telling me that for? And it wasn't long after that, there was a little nurse lady that came in there, and she got to talking to me about how high my blood alcohol level was. And I was thinking, guys, why don't we do something for this pain and not worry about this alcohol level so much? And I was hurting. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time, you know. Just didn't. And I remember, you know, my family's always been there for me, no matter what. And they were very supportive. They'd come up there and see me. Wallace came up there and see me, and he had the mug shot from the guy that stabbed me, and he had a little bit of bruising on his face. And he said, "Well, you got him, boy." I thought, I'd say he got me, but if you say so. So I did do a little damage. If I can say something, I got a few shots in. But anyhow, coming out of there, the one thing that I kept thinking while laying there, hooked up to all this stuff and all this medicine, is, man, this is about to get bad. Because now, I don't know if y'all have ever been stabbed, but whenever you do get stabbed and they let you out, like, you have a free range to all this stuff. And on the bottle, you know, as most of them do, it said, do not take while drinking alcohol. And I thought, man, this would be wonderful to take while drinking alcohol. Probably going to work better, and it certainly did. Buddy, I'm going to tell you what, I don't remember a whole lot of that last year, what that looked like. I do know I got fired. I ended up moving back in with my mom and stepdaddy. And it wasn't a good year. suicide had never really been on my radar because I had another grandpa that did kill himself. He got drunk one night and killed himself. And I knew the toll and the impact that took on my mama. And it had crossed my mind, but I said, no, I can't do that to her, not again. She done had that happen one time. But at this time, like, that seemed like a better and better option each day that went by. I just never did have the wherewithal to try, but it certainly was there. It won't back here neither, it was right here. Like, you'd probably be better off just you, yourself, and everybody around you if you just go ahead and end this thing. And, I know today that I was just in a deep, dark place there. And so my little girl was kind of the one that I guess you could say had an intervention on me. She came up to me a few days before I left to go to treatment rehab for detox for this last time, and she was crying. She was upset, and she was telling me how bad of a job I had been doing. She was telling me stuff like, what happened to you, Dad? You used to be such a good dad. You used to do stuff with us. You used to take us places. Now all you do is cuss and holler and scream, and if you do take us anywhere, you're taking us to these strange places and around strange people. And she was crying. She was upset. She really was. She was wanting her daddy back. And I already had my mind made up that her daddy wasn't coming back. As bad as I wanted to, as much as I wanted to, I could not come back from where I was at, because as bad as I wanted, as much as I wanted, as many times I had tried it, I couldn't do it. I could not do it on myself, and or for myself or for them. I had been in and out of a detox that last year many times, wanting help, screaming on the inside for help, but I couldn't get it outward. The help that I wanted and so desperately needed. But a few days went by, and I had that feeling again. I had that God feeling. It come over me one morning about 10 or 10:30. I don't know where it come from. It hit me, and I did for the first time that I've never done before. Excuse me. I got down on my knees and I said the most profound thing that I've ever said in my whole life. I said, "God help me," and I meant it, and I wanted it. I wanted some help. And what I know today, guys, is that He was there all along. Especially in my darkest days, he was there. I was the one that was not able to reach out for whatever reason, I had cut that communication off completely. But when I got down on my knees that morning and I asked Him for some help, that line of communication was opened back up, and He accepted me back just like I ain't never left. And I got up from that little prayer that I said, and I felt for the first time, like in here, that everything was going to be all right. It had been a long time since I felt it that way. And I started making some phone calls, and I called 5 or 6 different places. Samaritan was booked up. They were 2 weeks out, and I didn't know I had 2 weeks because I'd been in this position before, and I knew I had about a 2 or 3 day window to where I would really want some help. And after about 2 or 3 days, if I don't get that help, I'm gone again. So 2 weeks was out of the question. I called one in Greensboro, something or another, and they said, well, you ain't got no insurance? That's okay. You bring us $18,000 cash and we'll let you in. And I said, ma'am, if I had $18,000 cash, I wouldn't be going to rehab. I'd be burning this thing to the ground. I reckon there's people that do that. I'm sure she didn't just make that up. But anyway, I found a place in Winston-Salem. And they said, can you come tomorrow? I said, absolutely. They said, come on. I said, all right. And so I went to Arkham in Winston-Salem. Never heard of it before. Didn't really know much about it. But I knew it beat where I'd been the last year. And stayed in a little detox thing for a few days. Went to a little 14-day treatment program. And they had people coming in. And the very last night I was there, it was a different fellowship speaker meeting. And the speaker didn't show up, so they got the most senior person in there to get up there and share their story. And I was getting out the next day, so that made me the candidate. And I don't know what I said. I just know that I got up there and talked for about, it felt like an hour and a half. It might have actually been 2 hours, because by the time I looked out, they were like, And I was like, okay, I got it. But boy, I tell you what, I was all over the place. I was a wreck. I was a mess, and cried that whole night. I don't know what came out that night, but something came out, and I cried that whole night. And got out that next day, and I had not known that while I was there where I was going to be going to, but I knew it won't back home, because when I left, my mom and stepdaddy said, you ain't coming back here. So I knew that wasn't an option. And so I got in touch with this place in Aberdeen called Bethesda, and they accepted me. And I got there, like I say, I walked in, secretary was there, and she said, you done had somebody come out here to see you. And I thought, man, came to see me. Don't nobody know I'm coming, and don't nobody around here know me, but lo and behold, it was Kevin. And he came back a little while later and picked me up. We rode around, and he was talking about him. He was asking me about me, and we just had a good conversation. And for the first time in a very long time, maybe the first time ever, I started connecting with somebody. Alcoholics Anonymous showed up and was there the very first moment that I stepped foot down here in this area. And what I've learned all along the way is that that's just what we're supposed to do. That's what this program teaches us, is to be there wherever, whenever that call is made, that you be there. And I've tried to do that to my best ability throughout these last 3 years or so. So we went down to the Wilder building, and there was probably 100 people down there that night. And if you ever knew at the Wilder building on a Tuesday night with 100 people, it is not a good feeling. Very uncomfortable, and I didn't like it. And this fella started walking up to me, and I thought, man, he's coming for me. And he made eye contact with me. That's how I knew he was coming for me. And I put my head down, and I tried to shake it off, but when I turned around, he was right there. I thought, man. And he said, hey, how you doing? My name's Jonathan. And I said, hey, how you doing? My name's Ashley. And he just started talking to me about himself. And I got in the truck, and I told Kevin, I said, man, I met this really awesome guy. I like him. He said, maybe you ought to ask him to be your sponsor. And I think that hurt Kevin's feelings a little bit. I think he was really hoping that he was going to get the sponsor. God had other plans, It just ain't how it worked out. But we've been close friends ever since. I've certainly leaned on him a lot. There's no doubt about that. And that was a joke, by the way. I didn't mean that. But I asked that man to be my sponsor. And he asked me a couple of questions. And one of them was, are you willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol? And I thought, man, that could really be a loaded question right there. Like that's got a lot of weight behind that. And I thought about it for a second. I said, I accept. And he said, well, I do too. It'd be an honor to sponsor you. And we started going through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, just like it's laid out, from page 0, which is a blank, nothing. And he told me that's what I knew about staying sober. And I thought, you just don't know who I am. I done got 14 days under my belt, and I done shared my story, and I am well on my way. And he said, no, you don't know nothing. And I said, okay. And I wish today that I could have some of the bluntness with others that he's had with me, because he saved my life. I needed somebody to be very blunt with me and tell me just like it is. I have a hard time doing that some today, but maybe I should be better. I'll pray about it. But oh man, we went through that book, and whenever it said to read, we read. When it said to pray, we prayed. We took that third step prayer down there at Wilder building in the Al-Anon room, and man, that was a powerful thing. And he got down on his knees, and he asked me to pray with him, and I said, okay. We got down there and we prayed, man, and I stood up, and I had another one of those feelings, like I knew what it was. I knew God was within me that day, buddy. And I tell you what, it's something special about two men getting together and just laying your hearts out to one another. Certainly something that I never really thought about, but certainly something that was necessary throughout this process. And I remember waking up one morning over there at Bethesda. It was somewhere around this time, somewhere around the third step, shortly thereafter. And I woke up, getting ready to go to work, and my eyes open, and my first thought was, I wonder what's for breakfast. That was a very unusual thought, because my thought for a long time had been, what am I going to get in me right now to get me up out of this bed and get me going? That was my first thought for many, many years. And breakfast had not been nowhere on my radar upon awakening. And if I told my mom and daddy this, they would look at me like I'm crazy. But I know that some of y'all in here, maybe all of you, know what that feeling is like, to wake up and alcohol not be the first thing on your mind. And I knew that day that there was something working. I didn't know what it was. I was afraid to question it, and I was just ready to keep going, and that's what we did. Thank God for good sponsorship for this group right here. I was here every Monday, every Thursday, and there for a long time Wednesday. I remember the tradition study that we had early on, and I was kind of able to go through the traditions with my sponsor, because he was coming to that meeting also while we were going through the steps, and I got very grounded early on, and that was thanks to good sponsorship and being around good folks. And if you are new here, I don't know that I could stress that enough, the importance of being around good folks, because I always liked being around people. I was just never around the right people. I was always around the people that was headed left when I knew I needed to go right, but left was just always seemed like the better option. But he got me into service work early on, and again, thank God for good sponsorship. And if you hang around enough and make enough coffee and clean up enough and stuff like that, before you know it, you will be the activities coordinator down in Aberdeen. And that was my first position. I was the activities coordinator, and I really thought I was something. I got to come up with something every month, and I tried to do that to the best of my ability, because that's what my job was, And that's one of the things that this program's taught me. No matter what it is, whether I'm plunging toilets or if I'm doing a bank account, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. That's just what you do, and I've tried to do that ever since. And if you just keep on showing up, sooner or later you might walk in one day and they might ask you to be the CFC coordinator for the district. And I had that happen to me one day. Thank you. You know who you are. And I thought, man, this is getting serious. And but I said, okay, I'm ready, because what alcoholics have taught me is whenever the call is there, you answer it. And I'll never forget, first business meeting I went to, raised my hand, I was voted in. At the end of that meeting, the guy came up to me with an email, and I'm not an emailer. I do good texting and calling, but email is a little bit out of my scope. And I thought, man, I got the email? And so he handed me an email, and I started emailing with this fella. And we went back and forth, and what they needed was an outside representative at Southern Correctional in Troy. And, I believe today that God had me lined up with Daniel and Wallace going down there to Morrison for a reason. And what that reason was so I could be ready when that call was made to Morrison. And I've been very blessed and fortunate with a good group down there, guys. We got a big book study that we do every Thursday, except for the last Thursday month we have a speaker meeting. I've had some good speakers down there. And there was a little backlash at first, because I came in there gung-ho, and I didn't know that they had a format. They didn't know they had a format until we put a new format in place, and then all of a sudden they had an old format. And there were some guys in there that was not happy with me. They pulled me to the side and let me know that. They said, young fella, I don't know who you are coming in here thinking you're going to change things. And I thought, my God, I done pissed these fellas off at the prison. That's the last thing I wanted to do. It's a lot more to them than it is me. And they there for a reason. They ain't there just because. And I said, man. So I went home, I prayed about that. And I called my sponsor and talked to him. He said, well, maybe you went in there too strong. I said, maybe so. And so I prayed about it and talked about it. And But we did have a vote on it, and it was there. I told them guys, I said, this is y'all's group, this is y'all's conscience, and they voted in what they wanted. It just happened to be what I had proposed. And you know what? The most amazing thing happened. One of the biggest, baddest guys in there came up to me about a month later, and he didn't look happy when he was coming up to me, and I thought, God, just your will be done. And he stuck his hand out, and he shook my hand, and he said, I just want to apologize to you. He said, it won't right the way that I acted, and he said, it's been killing me. He said, you're doing a good job. We appreciate having you. I thought, man, that's powerful right there. So I always be sure to tell them guys how grateful I am for them letting me come down there. And if everything went according to plan tonight, they had a good big book study tonight. In my absence, we'll find out next Thursday, I reckon. But it's really been a journey, guys. Started out in a job, and I done just like my sponsor taught me to do. I just done the best that I could throughout each day, and there's been some incentives that have come along with that. I've made some progress within that company, whereas before, guys, there was no progress being made in any of my work, life, or any type of activity. It was all regression. That little girl I told y'all about that asked me to get out of her life, when I got back home to Sanford about a year and a half after moving down here, I had my little bags with me, and I walked in, I put them down, and she said, "You're home?" I said, "Yeah, I'm home." And we had a staring contest for about 15 seconds. And she just started walking toward me, and she put her arms around me, and she said, "I love you, Daddy." I said, "Man, that's good stuff right there." And one thing I was worried about, because I had been praying on my knees in my own room, and I was wondering how this was going to go when I got home. But I really didn't care. I prayed about it. I said, "God, just let me pray, just like I've been doing. Whoever sees, they see." And it sure enough happened. Not too long after I'd been home, I heard the door open while I was praying one day, and I thought, I froze. And I thought, what's about to happen? And she came over there, and she got right down beside of me, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and we started praying together. And it's stuff like that that's made this whole thing worth it, guys. And me and her, we got a better relationship today than we ever have. And that goes for my other kids, my daughter and my son. It's really allowed me to be the father that I always did want to be, but I couldn't. And about all the time I got, guys. I appreciate y'all having me up here and letting me share.